dude. Don't come through the door. I will shoot.
Hi, I'm Joel Persinger. I'm the Gun Guy. Thank you very much for all of your support of GunGuyTV. I'm very grateful. Please like, subscribe, click the bell on YouTube, follow us on Rumble and Twitter and all that kind of stuff. All right, I spoke with Monty Bowen. He's a great guy from Gun Owners of America. We talked about Washington State and Oregon and the fight in both of those states. We also talked about an awful lot more. Here is the first segment of that interview. Monty, thank you very much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. Appreciate GOA a lot. I'm grateful for the work that you guys do. And you are the brave man who's up there fighting for our rights in Washington and Oregon. And so I'm going to tell you right now, I have no idea. I have some idea, but I don't have a deep understanding of what's happening there because I'm head down in California a lot. So why don't I just start by saying this? What's going on that's really super pressing in either of those states?
Awesome. Well, first off, thanks for having me. I always appreciate people like you that are getting this message out of there because we know how much they're killing our freedom of speech, and we know where the media is, unfortunately. So it's left up to people and patriots like you that is able to get us out there because we get scrapped from so many platforms. But well, let's talk about Oregon first because Oregon's kind of it was our first test hotbed on the big assault weapons ban. We know Bruin and Heller's out there, and we know that SCOTUS is, in my opinion, is teetering on making the final big decision. So what happened in Oregon before the election, we had this ballot measure 114 that they put on the ballot. And this ballot measure 114 was an assault weapons ban, essentially, that was voted on by the people of Oregon. Basically what it was, they went through Portland and got every single person, whether you're there illegally, whether you're there legally, or whether you're homeless on the street, doesn't matter. And they got a petition signed to have this put on. And it passed by I don't know the exact, but it's like 0.01 or 0.1%. It was a very, very low passage percentage rate because most of the people other than Portland are patriots in Oregon. So we entered into a lawsuit with a gentleman last name of Arnold and Hassan, and we sued for the fact that it's unconstitutional in the state of Oregon. And we sued that on the state level. We found a judge that was in a county that was like, yes, this is absolutely an infringement on everybody's Second Amendment rights, and we find it. So we got a temporary stay. So we blocked it from going. Now, what you're probably thinking is, wait a minute, aren't they passing assault weapon bans and stuff like that? Well, that lawsuit was set for trial in September of this year, okay? But the newest thing out was they pulled it for a review, and they found out that GOA can't representation is not allowed in Oregon. Now, the lawsuit is still alive and well. It is still going forward. It's just we had to take kind of GOA and GOF, which is our Gun Owners Foundation. That's who we do all our litigation through. So we had to bow out, but we're still supporting it because we had to leave it into two actual residents' name in the state of Oregon. I know that sounds like a lot, but it's still alive and well. We're still backing it. It's just not a GOA, GOF lawsuit. It is now an Arnold and Hassan lawsuit against the state of Oregon about the Second Amendment.
So Monty, let me make sure I understand. Yeah. So in Oregon, you can't, as a Second Amendment advocacy group,
correct,
you can't stand in there and say, we're representing our members in this lawsuit. Is that the way it works in Oregon?
That's the way it works in Oregon. That's what they told us, that we had to take our name off of it. And now we can still back and still monitor the lawsuit and still assist with it, but we can't be named in that lawsuit, if that's what makes sense. And to be honest, we're shocked we were able to lead it as long as we did, with that being the case. And so we're very fortunate that we were able to get enough traction and enough people behind it to get it recognized to where we were able to have these people come on and be like, yeah, we're willing to take it over. So we're still fighting for Oregon people. We just have to take a different approach. The one thing I'm going to tell you that, and you're probably aware of this, is right now lawsuits, it's almost like playing chess. You have to do it so tactically that it's like you don't want to file yet. You want to file now. You don't want to wait. You have to wait. You have to file here. It's like playing chess with the government because there's so many unconstitutional judges. They don't care about our Constitution. And in Oregon and Washington, that's what we're faced with right now. The state judges are so corrupt, you can't sue in the states because they're all fed that nice big liberal money.
So is this lawsuit actually within the state court or federal court then?
This one is within the state because, and we'll get in, when we talk about Washington, we'll get into why it's not in the federal court, because it's the same reason we're dealing with Washington, because that Ninth Circuit is a very, very dangerous circuit. So.
Yeah, it's less so than it was, but it's still not. It's still a little bit of a kangaroo court, just not nearly as much as it was before. You mentioned something a few minutes ago when you talked about the Portland area versus sort of the rest of the state. And I've been seeing in the news, as I'm sure others have, that there's this battle in Oregon, sort of like there is between Northern and Southern California, where folks are wanting to split the state in half.
Yeah.
Is it driven from that kind of a dynamic, not just with firearms, but with other things between the major metropolitan areas and the rural areas? Is that what's happening in Oregon?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it is like even in Washington, you have the same battle. And it's like that intercoastal strip that's right down the strip of the coastline. In Washington, you have Seattle, Tacoma. And then, of course, in Oregon, you have Portland. But you get outside of those, the demographics and the people are all different. You don't have the high crime rate. You don't have people burning down small cities. You don't have the riots. You don't have, but it seems like in the majority, but the population, that big population in Portland, really dictates how the whole entire state is ran. And that's the sad part about it, because there's so many great people away from Portland, and there's good people in Portland too. It's just that their voting demographic is way far left. So all the other voices in the entire state have no voice in that state on the politics.
It's interesting that you point that out, because I think people miss that with California. We have Los Angeles County, basically, and San Francisco and the Bay Area. And those folks pretty much control what happens in this state, along with the teachers union.
Correct.
And there are a whole lot of Californians who are left out because their voices are really unable to be heard. It's interesting to me to discover that that's happening north of us in Oregon and Washington as well. The dynamic sounds like it's relatively the same. Are you finding that the battles are similar? Are the anti-gun crowd trying the same tactics in both Washington and Oregon, or are they different?
Yeah, what's funny is their anti-gun tactics, believe it or not, their tactics are across the U.S. Their tactics are, number one, we have to attack the AR-15 platform model, because they know that if they can get that one gun, that gun is probably more popular. And I know a lot of people say handguns are popular, but for a specific gun, the AR-15 is probably the most popular rifle in the United States. And I know we have hunting variations, we have different calibers of guns out there, but the platform itself is used by hunters, sporters, home defense. It protects our law enforcement agencies. It protects our military. So it is one of the most popular guns that's fundamentally in the U.S. because handguns, you have Glocks, you've got Smiths, so you've got a whole genre. You've got revolvers, you've got all kinds of different stuff. So they know that is the hot platform. That's why they demonize the gun so bad, but they don't really demonize the criminals. And that's the part that we fight. We're like, look, you're demonizing a tool that somebody used for evil, which if you were to magically, let's say we snapped our fingers tomorrow and all guns were completely out of the United States, every single one of them, I guarantee you the gangbangers and the evil people and the child molesters and they're still going to be committing their crimes. They'll just find a different tool. So instead of what they call a mass shooting, you'll have a mass stabbing like what happens in China. China had, I think there was a instance where a guy went in with a samurai sword and killed 22 kids. And so it's not the tool, it's the evil. but we don't want to focus on that. You know, as a matter of fact, we want to make cashless bond for them so they're out doing the same thing 20 minutes from now.
So where is the battle? I mean, if you were to kind of put a needle on it, are we doing well? Are we doing poorly kind of a thing in Oregon right now? Where would you say we are? Are we making any headway, or are we getting beaten to the ground?
Well, right now we have made a lot of headway. Just, you know, even like I said, this lawsuit, to be able to get a big win on that in such a blue state with the judges that are really appointed and, you know, pushed by the liberal, it was a big win. And I think where we're going to have to see our biggest fight is going to be through SCOTUS. It's going to be it's going to be the time when they're going to have to step in, because so many rights are being just stepped on, basically. And, you know, we haven't really did a lot of great ground other than that, just like Washington. You know, we can even talk about Washington, Oregon, I want to say kind of go hand in hand. So, you know, in Washington, they passed all those huge assault weapons bans. And we fought it tooth and nail. And a lot of our members are like, you know, when are you all going to sue? Well, that leads us into the lawsuits of chess playing, okay? And to describe that, the Ninth Circuit is 54-0 on voting anything they are a very strong gun control circuit, okay? So we know that if we can't trust our state judges in Washington. Most of them are corrupt. They vote and they rule or judgment on who is paying for their next run, or, you know, it's all a political corruption game. We know corruption's running heavy. So where we looked at was, we know a state lawsuit is out. We know that federally, if we go ahead and we jump into a lawsuit in the federal Ninth Circuit and they vote against it, we have a sister, and I don't want to say sister, but you'll follow me in a minute. We have a lawsuit in the 7th on the assault weapons ban in Illinois. So that one is already in the motions, okay? If we were to file in Washington in the Ninth Circuit, and the Ninth Circuit come back really quick and say, nope, we think this is not a violation of your Second Amendment, you know, full stop, then we're worried that the lawsuit in the Seventh Circuit may try to do the same thing, because they don't want a split decision. If you have a split circuit, which one says it's constitutional and the other one says not, it immediately goes to SCOTUS. And it doesn't have that big, long 2.5 year waiting period to get there. If let's say we lost it and in Washington, we appealed it, it could be 2.5 to 3 years before we ever get that up. And at that time, your gun rights are being taken away. So with us having that lawsuit in Illinois in the Seventh Circuit, and they're in, you know, the second and the seventh, they're being watched by SCOTUS. And if they end up saying, hey, look, you know, this is a violation, or let's say they say it's not, it's going to immediately go to the Supreme Court because of Bruin and a lot of other stuff that they've already done. You know, Amy Coney Barrett went out there and said, hey, look, you know, we're interested in this. I'm watching you. And I think what they're trying to do is give these little hints to these federal circuits on, listen, you're violating people's constitutional rights. We're about to take it and smack everybody on the hand, so do the right thing. And so right now we're just kind of balanced measures. So if we can pull off the big win in Illinois in that Seventh Circuit, we think that then once we go to the Ninth Circuit, they're not going to go against another circuit. So I know that's a mouthful, and that is
Monty, it makes all the sense in the world. I mean, you know, one of my favorite quotes from The Art of War from Sun Tzu's book is that strategy without tactics is the slowest path to victory, but tactics without strategy is just the noise before defeat. If we run around the country and just file lawsuits tactically because we want to file lawsuits, and just file lawsuits every time we get an opportunity to file a lawsuit, that's a bunch of noise, and we're going to get creamed. On the other hand, if we use a good strategy and then we apply our tactics strategically by filing lawsuits where the strategy seems to hold true nationally, not just the country is composed of 50 states, but if we do that in a strategic fashion, then we're going to win. And remember, that quote says that strategy without tactics is the slowest path to victory. You're still going to win. When you employ strategy and then employ the tactics strategically, then you're much more assured of a victory. The problem with it is that optically, from the perspective of the Oregonian or the Washington citizen or the person in California or whatever, it looks like, when are we ever going to win this? We're never getting a victory. I mean, what the heck? Because what you kind of described before you just went through what you just went through was the state legislatures in Washington and Oregon are against us. The state government from top to bottom is against us. The state judges are corrupt. We can't go into federal court because if we do, it'll end up in the Ninth Circuit. And so that leaves the poor person who's a citizen of one of those states thinking this is a battle that cannot be won. Yeah, but I think what you're telling me here is that estimation is not correct. This battle can be won and it will be won. Am I reading you right?
Absolutely. I definitely feel like we are definitely going to end and win the war. I think the battles, and like you said, we're having to choose those battles precisely because what people don't realize too is you don't want to set bad court precedents, okay? You don't want to have a case that goes up and you set bad precedents where they rule against you. So that's why, just like on our federal side, we put the pistol brace in the Fifth Circuit in Texas. And the reason why we did that, it's a good constitutional judge that we know will look at the fruits of what they're doing because they're trying to make 40 million people, felons and on a commonly used item on a gun that is commonly used. And so what we have to look at is, we know that SCOTUS is the ultimate final say on what's constitutional and what's not. The problem is that you have so much noise going on across all 50 states. And, it's like, I think everybody is just like on pins and needles waiting for the final shoe. And they keep trying to push them off left and right and wait. And, we're coming to a boiling point in the pot where somebody's going to have to pull the trigger and make that decision. And I think once that decision, and I'm very hopeful in the Seventh Circuit, I think once that's made, we're going to go up and say, hey, Washington, the Seventh Circuit just said you can't ban weapons that under the Second Amendment are commonly used. The traditional use, the history of the weapon, it's never, it's in common use. We use it all the way around the world, hunting, fishing, people even shoot. Trust me, I'm in Tennessee. We have people use AR-15s for fishing. Believe it or not, I've seen it. So,
all right. Now I just want you to pause right there. I want to do that. My brother, who's a Vietnam veteran, once told me that he used a grenade for fishing, and I was like, well, I want to do that. I'm never going to do either one. So I want to use an AR-15 for fishing. Let's see. Let me check on one of these websites. What's the cost of a plane ride to Tennessee?
We can get you out here for about $1,000, and I promise you.
Thank you very much for watching the entire interview. There will be more because we talked about a lot of stuff, and Monty is very engaged and very knowledgeable. So look for segment 2 coming up in the next couple of days. In the meantime, please do subscribe. We're trying to get the channel to grow, and follow us on the 3 major platforms, YouTube, Twitter, and Rumble. And you can also join GunGuyTV Crew if you'd like by going to GunGuyTVCrew.com. Have a great week. Thank you very much for all of your support. And wherever you go, whatever you do, stay safe.